previous year. I'm hoping to see a couple thousand extra again this year. I'm not sure, so I'm not going to budget it. When I budget revenues, I try to be conservative on the revenues. And so I'm pretty sure that I can make 30,000 because I did it this year off the 7,000 bags along with the cordwood that we did. So that's pretty much the difference right there. I'm hoping that we're going to see that number keep in the next few years. We're going to keep climbing that 30,000 figure up a little bit as we get this campfire wood business underway. We get the pole barn put up, and we're able to keep retailing those bags. That we'll see that number climb.
Okay. And I think we've already discussed some of the revenue side of this in the process of dealing with the allocation of true cost and so forth. Representative Umberger.
Yes. How long before the blueberries you planted last year will you get production?
We're looking at probably we'll start to get production in 4 to 5 years. Commissioner Sampson would probably be more of an expert, obviously more of an expert than I am when it comes to the blueberries. We have about, if we recall for the new members, we used to have about 350 bushes over here where the new nursing home was built. We had to move those bushes into a different field because of the nursing home project. So we did that the spring of 2010, and then spring of 2011 we added on 800 bushes onto that. So we're around 1150 to 1200, somewhere in that ballpark of bushes out there. Those that we moved over transplanted very well. We got very high production this year. We've got some new customers that we started delivering to that are buying our berries as quick as we can get them to them. So we got pretty good production out of those, and like I said, I'm thinking 4 years. Commissioner could correct me.
Yeah, about right.
We'd start getting production. Maximum production probably won't be until the plants are up to 10 years. A lot of those older plants we have are now in the 9 to 12 year range. So we're getting right up to production on those. So I'm hoping that the other ones within a few years we'll see an increase in that also.
Representative Babson.
Well, as you know, I've been up while you've been picking blueberries, and the inmates aren't exactly blueberry picking machines. Have you,
no, sir.
Have you given any thought to going to pick your own?
In the future, that's something we'll look at it if we have labor issues, because increasing from 350, which at times when we're in full production of blueberries, I have the guys down there, I know you showed up, 4 or 5 hours picking these berries. Now we're going to go to 800. I don't think that my labor scale is going to go increase with that also, with the amount of inmates that we get. So it's something that as we get up to production, we may have to look at and explore how we want to retail those. Unfortunately, pick your own is not going to bring in the same kind of money as we can if we pick them ourselves. So it's something we'll have to evaluate as the time gets there.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Representative McConkey.
Thank you. A question for Representative Babson and the subcommittee. Do you have a listing of the vehicles and equipment that the farm/maintenance department has, and an idea of what relative age is on the major pieces?
No, but that's a good point.
We've got that list.
Yes, I got a list, and I can get that for the subcommittee.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I'm sure that would be shared with the rest of the delegation. Representative Babson, thank you.
Any other questions then on the farm budget? If not, I thank you very much, Will, and you've already heard all sorts of accolades for the work that you've done, and we as a delegation will echo those. So thank you again for.
He's got some more budgets to prepare.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Water, sewer,
Okay.
maintenance.
So we have 3
Yes,
more
go ahead.
buckets to cruise through real quick. I don't know which one you would like to do next.
Okay.
Water.
Water department?
Let's
Page
do
4.
water, yes. Let's keep it in order, yes. Let's let someone else be doing that, okay.
Where's the bottom? Where is it?
It's on page 3 of the expenditure budget.
It's actually down.
Down at the bottom of the page.
If I may, the only difference that I can really point out to you is if you look at the bottom line, last year we were 50,666, this year we're 56,614, so we're just shy of a $1,000 reduction on this budget. Those that have been here in the past for a while will know that the water budget fluctuates $1,000, give or take, every other year due to licensings that are due on the employees that we're all licensed at different levels for the water system. We have to be for the state of New Hampshire. So those come due at certain times. Certain times I buy chemicals for the water department, and we might not buy them the following year. So that's another variation that you may see. It's usually only a few $100s, but it's something I'm trying to get more consistent. We used to buy it every other year, and now I'm trying to get on a system of buying it less every year, because the longer it sits in storage, it loses its potency. So, you know, I don't see where the cost savings of buying it in bulk and lose its potency and use it twice as much as to buy it every year at a lower rate and have it stay better. Excuse me. So there's a few differences such as that you might see through here that add up to the $1,000. Some line items I've looked at the past. I pretty much, the state gives us ahead of time, gives us a testing schedule of what needs to be tested and for certain wells and such every year. So, for example, $500 I can see right now was through water testing, which was 0.27. We lowered that by $500 right there because I feel that we won't have to spend as much. The last couple of years there were some wells that we had to, that we don't use regularly, but their testing needed to be updated. And I believe most of that testing, I don't think too much of that will be transitioning into 2012 if we've caught up on that for a period of time, so we should be able to be a little bit better. So I lowered that by $500.
Is that testing done on a schedule that's established by the state EPA? Or?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yep, DEA. They give me a schedule. Usually, I think it's 2 years, 2.5 years, something like that, maybe 3 years out of pretty much regularly what needs to be tested, and we test every quarter for certain things. One quarter I might take down 3 tests. The next quarter I might take down 10 different things that we're testing. Just depends on what they say needs to be tested in which quarter. And primarily most of our testing is all for the drinking water. There's a few things we have to send out of state, which I've done every few years, such as your, I want to say it was like some uranium or something along those lines. We have to send to Florida because there's only certain labs in the country that actually test that. But most of what we do at the state level.
And I mistakenly referred to EPA, and I should have said DES.
DES.
It's Environmental Services that takes care of that. Representative McConkey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. New equipment down slightly from last year. What do you have on your list for new equipment?
Actually, I'm sorry if it's
15
difference. I thought it was about the same as last year.
Yeah.
I put it the same exact. This year that we plan on buying in that, off the top of my head I can't remember exactly that, or that we have anything specifically planned. That's usually a line item that if something comes up that we need, for an example, 2 years ago we had a use for a special tool that was needed that I didn't foresee needing until something broke, and then I needed some money to go buy that tool that we needed. This year, if you observe, I don't know if it shows you, but I didn't use any of that $1,500, I don't believe, because I didn't find in 2011, I didn't find a need for anything that came up that I had to use it for, so we turned that back over. So that's kind of what I generally use that fund for.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. Uniform expenses, spent $182.92 last year, if I read this correctly, and you have asked for $600. Can you tell me what that would be for?
Yes, sir. That is also the third quarter that you're looking at for the 182.
Okay.
I can pretty assure you that probably $599 of that 600 has been spent for the end of the year. That's been all used up.
Okay, that's fine. Could you tell me what is involved for $600 for uniforms for the water department?
Yes, it's three employees that work the water department. That's used to replace clothing that gets when we use the hypochlorite. It tends to get our clothes all fall apart, basically. Yes, thank you. Our boots for when we're out in trenches. There, if you recall, you had one of your customers this year. We put up a hookup in the village for when my employee was out there down in the trench hooking this hookup for the water for this customer down there. You know, his pants got all tore up. So with this kind of work, it tends to get tore up and things need to be replaced, and that's where it used to be in the farm, and we find that more is damaged due to things that we do in the water department, along with the other things that we do on this complex, but more percentage on the water department, so that's why we placed it there.
Thank you.
Follow up, yes.
Yeah. Would you believe that my employee that was there that day, and on many other days, ruins his pants, ruins his shoes, and so forth, in the practice of just coming to work, and I don't reimburse him for uniform. People should come to work. On your thought on the chlorine being a problem, perhaps for safety issues, you should be considering bibs or shields over your clothing so that there's not other things happening there and not taking the splash of chlorine and other things onto your clothing for safety's sake.
I think it's Representative Turgenev, you had a question.
Yeah. How many wells are on the complex?
All of our wells are up on
Up on the mountain.
up on the mountain up here, sir. I want to tell you, off the top of my head, I want to say that we have 2 or 3 bedrock wells, and then we have 3 to 4
Shallow.
dug wells, shallow wells, that feed into our treatment plant that is up on the hill. Then it's all gravity fed. It comes down through the complex here. It feeds the complex, the courthouse, down through here, goes down through the hayfields and across 28, feeds the village. We have almost 50 customers down there that we provide water service to, and it pretty much ends down on Old 28 down by the state shed, I believe, is about the end of the line.
Representative Babson and
I'm sorry, I didn't catch the number of wells.
There's 2 different types. 2 different
I know,
styles.
understand that.
I'm going to say about 6 or 7.
How many
I think it's more like
bedrock
4 or
wells did you
5. I think
have?
we got 2 deep wells, and
Okay.
we got 2 or 3 shallow
So
wells.
5. in that
Okay.
ballpark.
Thank you.
And they all go into a storage, they all pumped in a storage tank.
did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, Representative Babson.
Thank you. A couple of questions. Will, do you know what the people in the village pay a quarter for their water?
They pay, I don't do the billing, so don't hold me 100% to this, but they pay a quarterly rate first for the usage, for the hookup, which I believe is $100 a quarter. And then they pay amount per 1,000 gallons that they use. So we go down every quarter and we read their meters, and then that is all recorded with the business office, and they charge out a certain amount per 1,000, I believe it is,
Okay.
that's used.
The second question is
Yeah.
is that also true of the courthouse?
Yeah. It's on a meter, yep.
It is on a meter.
Yep.
You need a follow-up question. We don't see that. That's not in our revenue figures.
No,
There's no water, the other end, there's no
Yes, it
water
is.
department roads there. In
Yes,
fact,
it
they're making a profit.
Oh, I'm sorry, excuse me, I missed it. Oh, county general, okay, it's not under the, all right, excuse me.
I think Representative McCarthy and then Representative McCarthy, did you have a question?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question goes back to the uniforms. Several of the other departments have a uniform expense that's written into their contract. I would like a little more information on what the practice is relative to this $600. What do they have to do to get clothing? Do they have to show you something? For instance, the sheriff, they have to turn in dry cleaning receipts, things like that. Do these people have to do anything at all, or you just decide who gets the uniform?
No, they have to turn in receipts of what has been purchased. We're obviously a small department, so I generally know what got damaged when we're out on the job, and they replace it with a receipt. We don't wear, this is my nicest attire that I have, sir, so we don't go to the dry cleaners like some of the other departments may or may not. That's not something that we do. We use our equipment, our clothing, and that's when it's torn or damaged, you know, that's when the receipts come, and then that's when we do it.
Thank you.
Yes, Representative.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the commissioners, if my memory serves me, a while back, just a few weeks ago, the commissioners were going to look at a policy or write a policy on who needed uniforms and so forth. Will that be finished so that we have that prior to our final discussion on budget?
Yes, we will.
And could I just ask you to get, if you have that ahead of time, could it be distributed to the delegation ahead of that meeting?
Yep.
Thank you.
And Commissioner, you had another question.
Yes, we have an enterprise budget with the nursing home, and we have an enterprise budget with the water department because we get money in from the community wells. So that has to be kept separate. Okay?
Okay. Go ahead, Will.
Never mind, sorry, sir.
Any other questions on the expenditure side? Yes, Representative Baldwin.
Thank you. Just want to follow up with Commissioner Sorensen. You said you had an enterprise fund for the water?
It's an
works?
enterprise budget, yep. Because we receive outside money to support the water department.
But
Yes.
if I might, what you do is that you pay your expenses out of the enterprise fund, but you budget for them normally. And that's why hopefully the $58,000 should cover the cost of operating the water department. I assume that we still have water and sewer, or water is paid for by the users as well here on campus.
Yep.
Representative McConkey.
Thank you. Vehicle lease purchase line. Last year, if I see this, 3,300 we spent.
Excuse me, are you still on the,
Waterworks?
okay, on the expenditure side?
Correct.
Okay, all right, fine. Yes, go ahead, please.
Anyways, we have 2,500 plugged back in here. Could you just explain that to me?
Yes, sir. I'm assuming you're asking the difference between the 3,300 and the 2,500, basically. We are, but to fill you in, 2012 is the last payment that we're making on the truck that we bought 3 years ago. The first plow truck, the only plow truck we had until this fall. When we budgeted for that, because I have to budget in October, and we don't get to purchase things until April, originally we had talked about possibly having a diesel engine in the truck, and that's why we budgeted for $3,300. By the time things came through, we decided to go with the gas truck. It's cheaper, it was $2,500 for the 4 budgets, and that's why the reduction of the $800 is there, sir.
So if I could, so that's to put a new motor in the truck?
No, that was a purchase of the vehicle.
Oh, okay.
This is
And
the last, we've been making 4 payments. We made the payment that we purchased it in the prior 3 years, 2010, 11, and 12. This is our last payment on that truck.
thank you. And is that a 1-ton truck? What is that truck?
Yes, sir. It's a 1-ton truck, at 350.
And that's not the same truck that we use to deliver firewood with? That's a separate truck? Thank you.
Other questions on the expenditure budget for Waterworks? Would you like to go over to the
Maintenance?
revenue side and just see?
Oh, revenue.
Do we have anything else on revenue that's?
I don't, sir, as far as me, because I don't have anything to do with the revenue. I don't predict it. That's the Commissioner's office, Commissioners. If you had any questions on that, I would refer to them.
It doesn't show there as, that's why it shows in the other budget, not this one. Okay, good. And Representative Pugenza.
Water department is in there. It's in there.
Okay, go ahead.
Water department is
Is that
in
the
under
county
the general, county general.
First page. Page 1.
Right, okay.
$58,000.
I missed it too, that's what I'm saying.
Okay. So everybody's clear on that?
And-
That's, question from Representative Tregenza and then to Representative Merrill.
Yeah, I actually did have one more question regarding the chemicals. Is there a requirement that chemicals be put into
Yes, sir.
the county complex water?
State.
Yes, sir. State,
Well,
we have to have a
It's
certain.
a state law, basically, that
Right.
says,
We have to have a certain level of the chlorine, basically, that is what it is, in your water, all the way to the last person that's on our line. When they measure it, there has to be a certain level. The state determines that level, what it's supposed to be, and we monthly have to monitor that and make sure that we are within that level.
thank you.
could I make a comment on that?
Representative Merrill first, and then, or did you have a comment related to this? Well, go ahead.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yeah. Representative Tregenza, there is no requirement to put something in the water, okay? Why you put something in the water is because it has bacteria, germs, whatever, in the water. And therefore, you are putting something in the water to eliminate that bacteria and germs. Because if you don't, then you'll fail your testing, okay? But it's not a requirement. Because, for example, in the North Conway Water Precinct, we don't put anything in our water except caustic soda to prevent rusting of your pipes. And so, I mean, it's, you know, that quote-unquote requirement, no. It's to kill the germs and the bacteria that are in the water so it's safe for drinking.
I just know that we have to test the level and send it to the state.
I didn't want to get into the fluoride thing.
Yes, go ahead. You have a follow-up?
Only that I believe the commissioner was saying that it's a state law. Did you,
To pass the test, we have to have chlorine in the water.
oh, I see.
Okay. As Representative Umberger said, we don't have to do that, but in order to meet the state's test, we have to put chlorine in it. Whether it's a requirement or not, I think by the state, if you don't pass the test, they close you down.
Thank you.
Yes, Representative Merrill.
Yes, thank you. I understood you say you had an enterprise fund for the water department, and yet on your income, you show it under the county general fund. You have another fund elsewhere somewhere?
No, that's it.
It's not listed as an enterprise fund, though, even though somebody indicated it was.
It should be.
It should be listed as an enterprise fund.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yes, Representative Umberger.
Yeah. On the water income, could we get some kind of a description as to how much is paid for by the,
Yep. We have a water policy, we'd be glad to show you.
well, I mean, how much is paid by the community?
Yep.
How much is paid by the courthouse? And how much is paid by the rest of it? Just
Yep, yep.
out of this 58,000, and what your rates are.
We can see that when we consider the entire budget then.
Yep.
That would be ready for
We'll
us.
get that.
Representative McConkey and then Representative
Thank
Babson.
you. Jason, if I could, are buildings being monitored, water usage going in? Do we have separate meters on all of our buildings?
No, sir. What happens is we take a reading up at the reservoir, and then we go through and we meter all the places that have meters, all our customers in the village and all those other buildings. They figure out what that is, then she subtracts it from the total up at the top, and then she has a formula that she figures out how much is used at the different, on the campus. It's county water, she just figures out how much goes to which building.
Thank you. I'm not concerned about the billing, and that's fine. But you as the head water operator and looking in the future for possible water leaks and things, wouldn't you feel better if your buildings were individually metered so that you knew how much your water was from year to year?
Oh, I don't disagree with you, sir. It apparently was decided way before my time.
What's the cost?
The cost?
Yeah, any idea what the cost is for a meter?
Per meter, I believe, jeez, I thought they were really expensive. I can't remember how
I think
much,
so,
but
too.
I thought it was in the thousands, but because of how big they
The
go.
size of the pipes.
Right, but I'm not 100% sure.
Give a follow-up.
Yeah, they, Justin, I'm sure Jason knows this, Size usually by the size of the pipe coming in, but there's options, which I've done in some of my water systems, to take off of the line with a smaller line and then calibrate very closely how much water that is, and your metering cost is substantially less. So instead of an 1.5 to 2-inch pipe with a meter, you could drop that down in instances to 1-inch pipe or less, and then get a comparable reading, so you'd have a much better feel. So there are options available.
I think it's important that we meter.
Yes, Representative
That's the
Babson.
state will keep hearing.
May I ask the commissioners a question?
Yes, sir, go ahead.
Commissioners, are you able to change the rates on that you charge the village users without any public hearing or anything from the PUC? Or
Yep.
I guess I'm asking, you have free will to do what you want with that water rate?
No, I think we have to have a public hearing. Every time we flush the hydrants, we have to notify all the users that, you know, there may be a little bit cloudy water that you ought to run. But I think if we change the rates, we need to have a public hearing and show why we're changing the rates.
Do you?
We haven't had one in a long time because we haven't changed the rates.
Further
Go ahead,
question?
yes.
Well, you went from $500 a quarter to now being metered. Isn't that changing the rate? Since you
We
didn't
put
know
the
what the
meters
rate
in,
was to
so
begin with?
we're actually charging what people use,
I understand
okay?
that. But previous to putting these meters in 4 or 5 years ago, whatever
Yep.
it was, you charged them $500 a quarter,
Yep.
whether you use 1 gallon or whether you use 1,500.
Yep.
Now you're putting in and you're metering. Isn't that basically a change of rates?
The metering went in when the water system went in. It was done at the same time. Public hearing was held for putting in the new system. So we haven't changed anything since the new system, the new piping went in. That was all included.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, go
Yeah.
ahead.
Just so you know, there's no requirement to hold a public hearing to change the rates for water. It would be nice if you did that, but your rates are supposedly based on your cost of operating the system. And that's why I think it's essential that we get meters on the county complex, because we don't know whether we're charging the customers in the town their fair share, or are we charging them more than their fair share? Because we don't know how much the county is consuming. I mean, we have estimates, but it should be metered
One up there, one here.
in order to, you know, come up with the true cost. And it appears to me that the true cost of maintaining the waterworks is $56,614, because that's what they're budgeted. That's what they're budgeted. And yes, they are making a little bit more than that, and that's okay, because that $2,000 that they're making extra every year should in fact be used to pay for new equipment or whatever, you know, because all of that needs to go into the cost. But do you have to have a public hearing? No.
Commissioner Sorensen first.
But
I could stand corrected, but I think we have a meter up at the wells, and we have a meter as it leaves the complex. Okay? So we know what the complex is using. We know what the village is using. We charge them according to their meters.
and what's the rate? Do you know?
I don't know off the top of my head. No.
But you'll get it for us, right?
Yep.
Okay.
So we know what's leaving campus, but we don't know what the amount of utilization is by each individual entity on the campus.
Yeah.
Correct.
So, but we know, we
Correct.
can divide it up. We
Yeah.
know that.
I mean, it's,
Okay. Representative Merrill.
Thank you. We had a discussion on the water system maybe 7 years ago when I was first here. And I can't remember when you put the new one in, but
It's
the
about
issue
right.
came up on the costs and et cetera. And I believe if you look back far enough, to some kind of a legal agreement between the county and the town in order to supply this, because the town, I don't know, gave you property or something?